Imagine the perfect wedding. You are standing at an altar. The music swells. The father walks the bride down the aisle. You have a best man by your side. You exchange vows. It is the ultimate fairy tale ending, the highest expression of human love. But biology and history don't care about fairy tales. If you peel back the layers of these ancient rituals, you will find a dark, calculated reality. Marriage was never invented by poets. It was never about finding your soulmate. It was the very first corporate merger. For 290,000 years, human beings were hunter-gatherers. We moved constantly. Because we were always moving, nobody owned any land. Nobody had a bank account. Nobody had wealth. People obviously mated and had children, but the concept of a strict, legally bound nuclear family did not exist. Because there was no private property, nobody cared about bloodlines. If a baby was born, the entire tribe fed it. Wealth was shared and survival was communal. But roughly 10,000 years ago, human beings made a massive, irreversible mistake. We invented farming. Suddenly, a hominid wasn't wandering the savannah anymore. He cleared a field, built a fence, and harvested wheat. For the first time in human history, a man had private property. He was living on this land with the women he mated with and the children they produced. He had a family in a biological sense, but not a legal one. Then, the ancient farmer looked at his life's work. He spent 40 years breaking his back to build an empire of wheat and cattle, and he wanted to pass it down to his son. But there was a terrifying biological glitch: inheritance. When a mother gives birth, she is 100% certain a child is hers. But before modern DNA testing, a man had absolutely no biological guarantee that a child was actually his. Before farming, this didn't matter. But now, the farmer was paralyzed by paranoia. What if the boy isn't mine? What if I die and accidentally hand my entire real estate empire over to another man's genetics? The idea of marriage was born out of pure economic terror. Ancient men realized that as long as women had sexual freedom, their private property was at risk. They could not build a generational empire if they didn't know exactly who their heir was. They needed a legally binding system enforced by the entire village to completely lock down female reproduction. Marriage was invented as a legal fence. It wasn't a celebration. It was a strict security protocol to ensure a man's real estate stayed in his own bloodline. Once you understand that marriage was just an ancient property contract, every single romantic wedding ritual suddenly makes terrifying, logical sense. Take the tradition of the father giving away the bride. Today, it is a sweet, emotional moment, but historically, women were not legal citizens, they were financial assets. The father walking his daughter down the aisle was the literal, legal transfer of property. He was handing the deed of a biological asset over to a new owner to finalize a corporate tribal merger. What about the best man? Today, he holds the rings and gives a funny speech, but in ancient times, the best man was literally the best swordsman you knew. Marriages were often forced alliances or involved kidnapping a bride from a rival tribe, and the beautiful, delicate veil over the bride's face, it wasn't for modesty. For thousands of years, marriages were blind business transactions between two fathers trading land and cattle. For thousands of years, you didn't marry for a spark. You married because your father wanted access to the river on your neighbor's property. Kings married off their daughters to rival warlords just to stop their castles from being burned down. Marriage was a peace treaty. It was a real estate transaction. Today, we have wrapped these ancient, brutal security protocols in flowers, music, and romance. We walk down the aisle feeling like we are participating in a magical destiny. But as you stand at the altar, surrounded by your friends and family, your brain is just blindly executing a 10,000-year-old agrarian security protocol. You aren't fulfilling a destiny. You are just finalizing a property transfer.